This video contains spoilers for Final Fantasy XIV's patch 6.1 main story quest and raid content. If you have not finished through patch 6.1's MSQ, I do not recommend continuing to watch this video, no matter how short it is. So, as it turns out, I got a bit distracted and forgot to do the patch 6.1 commentary video. That's a pretty big blunder, all things considered. I had this cool plan to release all my gameplay footage day by day, then have this commentary video out when I finally ran out of gameplay to splice together. So clearly that didn't happen. But you know what? I'm going to put my thoughts out here anyways, even if I'm over a month late and this entire patch is pretty much old news. I'm just gonna stick to my plan and release this thing anyways, because why not? Alright, so 6.1. Pretty fun patch overall. Good dungeon and raid, fun music, but most importantly they managed to keep the story interesting. Going into Newfound Adventure, I was honestly worried they wouldn't be able to make the new MSQ quests engaging and we'd end up with content that felt hollow. And I mean, they really were fighting an uphill battle trying to follow up Endwalker's finale. The writing team did a frankly impressive job making sure the new quest introduced the upcoming story without going too crazy right off the bat. That being said, I'll get to my individual story thoughts in a little bit. First, I wanted to give my 10 cents on the actual dungeon and raid content. Azadal's Legacy is a really fun dungeon. Music, aesthetics, enemy choice, and especially boss design blended together into a piece of content that felt reminiscent of old ARR dungeons, yet distinctly new. Without the usual pressure of saving the world, Azadal's Legacy really just felt like a good old-fashioned treasure hunt. Oh, and who can forget the best part of the dungeon? Kalatrop Alzdal XIV. I mean, who doesn't love a giant gold crown-wearing crab? Without a doubt, however, the boss fight against Kapikulu had to be the highlight of the experience, and a striking and unique boss design that tied into thematically consistent mechanics made for a wonderful encounter. I'm still in love with the attack, where it wraps up the party that makes them spin around like tops. Truly a wonderful boss fight. With all the praise heaped on the dungeon, it's only right to immediately follow it up with even more amazing battle content. I wasn't really sure what to expect from the new raid series. The dev team seemed especially tight-lipped about the premise and content until the first trailer dropped, but I feel like I can confidently say Myths of the Realm is poised to be the best Alliance raid released so far. Now, I'm not a pro raider or hardcore content analyst, but when the literal god of destruction summons a giant fist to punch a colossal meteor to pieces, I feel like we found something really special. And I haven't even mentioned the music and visuals yet. All of Aglaya looked stunning. The art team really did just go ahead and depict the FF14 version of a higher plane. The combination of different mythological elements really does just elevate this raid to an even grander scale than those before it. And then this guy's theme just has no right going as hard as it does. Alright, enough beating around the bush. It's time to talk about what I really wanted to make this video about. The story. Seeing as we just started the raid series, Mysteries of the Realm hasn't given us too much to work with story-wise. Regardless, the little we've had the pleasure of seeing so far is just oozing character and lore hooks. The identities and history of the 12 is something I know any hardcore 14 lore aficionado has been dying to know for years now, and our current interactions with these deities does not disappoint. Each of the gods has displayed very distinct personalities and relationships with one another. All of those lore tidbits when creating a character are suddenly a lot more important. This combined with the new lore introduced in Shadowbringers and Endwalker further adds to our questions and theorizing potential. Oh, and before we move on to the MSQ, this guy is so suspicious. There's something up with Derek, and you can't convince me otherwise. Now, finally on to the MSQ. As I mentioned earlier, Ishikawa and the rest of the writing team had a tough act to follow with what they put out for Endwalker, but that certainly doesn't seem to have fazed them in the slightest. Newfound Adventure mixes the usual between-story, patch content with very strong setup for the oncoming main scenario content using past lore and story beats to help spice up what should be a normal treasure hunt story into a full-fledged Final Fantasy XIV plot hook. While the usual catch-ups with the Scions are certainly present, some of the most interesting parts of the patch come from the exploration of Ritra's past and the continued development of his character. These sections pull double duty, not only serving as fantastic characterization but also setting up our upcoming foray into the 13th. This practice of doing two things with one scene is the cornerstone of fantastic narrative writing, and I'm thrilled to see that Ishikawa hasn't diminished in her ability even in the slightest. And then there's the big reveal that's sure to make longtime Final Fantasy fans very excited, the reveal of Golbez and the 4 elemental archfiends. Now we have the face of our antagonist in the 13th. What I love most about this reveal is that it's not only a cool homage to Final Fantasy IV, but a further exploration of the lore established during the Warring Triad questline. If my read of these characters is correct, then this was also our first look at the now monstrous warriors of Light of the 13th that Unokalai told us about in Heavensward. Alright, so I've been praising 6.1 nonstop for a while now, haven't I? Well, unfortunately there's one big moment that I find myself pretty torn on. The reveal of this Xenos-like entity at the end of the patch. I say Xenos-like because I'm not actually so certain that it is Xenos. When I first saw this cutscene, I was not at all thrilled at the reveal. If this is Xenos, then I feel like everyone has a reason to be pissed. If you're like me and you do not like Xenos at all, then this murder hobo is suddenly back in the narrative again. I thought we were finally rid of him, but no, he just refuses to stay dead, doesn't he? If you do like Xenos, then you should be pissed for different yet similar reasons. Bringing Xenos back to life invalidates his entire arc in Endwalker. In fact, it invalidates his character arcs in Stormblood. Man, I'm really giving this guy way too much credit for the sake of argument. As a character whose only joy and purpose in life is to fight, yet can never find an adversary who can beat him, his defeat should mark the conclusion of his arc. I'm looking at you, Stormblood. To bring him back means disregarding this defeat a second time. However, I did mention my lack of certainty that this is in fact our erstwhile murder hobo stalker. I'm not quite sure where it was I read it, but I saw someone raise the idea that this might, in fact, be Xenos' void-sent avatar, returned to the world of darkness after Xenos met his final fate. While I'm not really a fan of anything Xenos-related re-entering the story, I'll admit that I'd be much more receptive to that outcome as opposed to the former. And that brings a close to this short video on my thoughts regarding patch 6.1's content and story. What did you think of Newfound Adventure? Did you enjoy everything as much as I did, or did it not do what you wanted it to? Whatever your opinion is, be sure to leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear what other people thought. And hey, if you liked the video, considering hitting that like button. It's very lonely. And hear me out here. If you're feeling super adventurous, why don't you tap that subscribe button to see what else I might end up releasing? Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in whatever next video I make. Not in 6 months this time.